Solve for x. So we can see there are two equations here, and we'll solve them one at a time. So for the first one, 14 minus x equals 5. What we want to do when it says solve for x is we want to end our working with a positive x equaling a value. And the value could be negative or positive or decimals, whatever. Just whatever we get to. But what we want to show through our working is, a clear method where we take clear steps to get to our final answer. So remember, what we're trying to do is we're trying to isolate the variable, which is the x, on one side of the equation, and we'll end up with its value on the other. So let's go about that for the first one. We have 14 minus x on one side, and on the other side of the equation is 5. Now it says equals here between the two sides of the equation, and what that means is that the left-hand side is equal to the right-hand side. So it makes a bit of sense then that whatever we do to the left-hand side, we must do to the right, and vice versa. So in this case, we want to get the x by itself. So on this side, we've got 14. Now this is a positive 14, right? It doesn't say positive, and because of that, we know it's a positive. So how do I cancel out or get rid of plus 14? Well, I can do the inverse. I can do the opposite, which is to minus 14. Again, whatever I do to one side, I must do to the other. So let's go through this working. So plus 14 minus 14, so I was on positive 14 and I minus 14, I go to 0. So that cancels out. What am I left with? I'm left with minus x. On this side, it's 5 minus 14. Well, that's minus 9. So what I'm left with here is I'm left with minus x equals minus 9. Now I don't want minus x. I need it to be a positive x. So what do? Well, I simply multiply this minus x by minus 1. Because what this really means is not minus x, it's minus 1x, right? So if I minus 1x times minus 1, what do I get? I get positive x, or positive 1x. And whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. Times it by minus 1. Minus 9 times minus 1 is 9. And so I know that x equals 9. What I should do is I should check. And I check by substituting into the original equation. So 14, right, minus x equals 5. I substitute what I think x is, and I think x is 9, so let's get rid of that x and put in 9. 14 minus 9 is 5, is that correct? Yes, it is, which means this is correct, which means all my working is correct. Okay, so for the second one, similar process. I've got minus 12 here. Okay, so how do I cancel minus 12? Well, I add 12. Again, I've got to do it to both sides, keep the whole equation balanced. Minus 12 plus 12 takes me to 0, so it cancels out. What's left? Well, on the right hand side I have x left. This one here, 39 plus 12, what does that leave me with? It leaves me with 51. Now I should have the x on the left hand side, and I should have its value on the right. Now because this is minus x, that's great. I can just switch them over. Positive x, just switch it straight over to the left hand side. Switch that one over to that side, and that should be correct. So I just have to substitute, so 39 equals, right, x minus 12, which was the original equation. I substitute in my value for x, which is 51. 51 minus 12 is 39, so that's correct. This must be correct, and this must be correct. I'm correct all the way around.